All right, welcome back to the live reading of my memoir, Rebirth. I am now reading chapter 1. Again, if you find this story helpful, if you know anyone who would find it helpful, make sure to like and share and make sure to subscribe so you know when I'm dropping the next chapter. I'm reading this chapter by chapter. I don't know necessarily how far I will get each day, but I'm basically doing a full reading of the book chapter by chapter. This is chapter 1, The Dam Breaks. The soft breeze offered just enough coolness to lure us from our tents, sweaters clutched in our hands as we faced the early morning air. Casual, muffled conversation floated around me, as if I were submerged underwater. My right hand gripped the table's edge, fingers drumming a restless rhythm. I focused on the measured flow of my breath, in and out, through my nostrils. Though the sun had begun to filter through the trees, casting slanted gold beams across the forest floor, even that couldn't settle my unease. The sense of peace I usually found deep in the woods was absent, elusive. Our conversation lacked any meaningful substance. We seemed to suffocate the silence, as though the stillness demanded more from us than we were ready to offer. I reached for the cantaloupe, hoping that focusing on a single task might diffuse the mounting pressure in my chest. As my knife sliced through the melon's rough skin, Kate's face contorted. A flicker of horror crossed her features, like a parent's when a child darts into a busy street. Her shoulders sagged, then her nostrils flared, her chest rising slightly. She lifted her right arm, pointing towards the cutting board. Then, in a graceful, composed tone, she said, "You do realize—" She paused, adjusted her stance, lowered her arm again. "The bacteria on the outside gets dragged right through the center of the fruit when you cut it. That's why you need to thoroughly clean the exterior before cutting." Her words were soft and fluid, almost rehearsed, but her body betrayed her composure. The nervous shifting, though controlled, felt restless. Just the day before, she'd presented her homemade natural disinfectant to my family several times. I reminded myself to be more careful. Kate usually carried herself with calm, anchored, and focused control, but now her energy felt out of place, her presence too polished. I felt like a misfit, unwilling to bring the rituals of sanitation into the raw, wild, honesty of the forest. I had left civilization behind. Out here, everything fell away, even cleaning etiquette. The woods invite surrender, dirt between my fingers, the soft squish of earth under my feet. A time to forget, adapt, blend in, shed layers, and renew our perspective. This was how I reconnected with something ancient, a way to revisit a time when we were more primitive, less civilized, long before the hyper-vigilance of parenting, before I knew what it meant to keep a child alive with nothing but instinct and intuition. A few years ago, my husband and I cycled across Europe for 3 months. The experience was deeply enriching, stripping life back to its most basic necessities, food and shelter. That's all we truly needed. As we rode, I realized how tangled our lives had become with possessions, worries, trivialities, and distractions from what truly matters. I vowed to let it all go and hold on to that sense of freedom upon our return. I wanted to live lightly, to keep moving unburdened by belongings, beliefs, rules, and expectations. I even considered donating everything, all of it. Everything that had once defined me now felt like ballast, dragging me down and keeping me stuck. I promised myself I wouldn't forget this feeling, but slowly the life I had left behind crept back in. Each item, habit, and obligation yearned to be needed again, until normalcy wrapped its arms around me and the adventure faded into memory. Camping offered an opportunity to reclaim that freedom, earthiness, the dirt, and its life-giving bacteria. It was a chance to be that untethered, wild, and present wanderer again. But something felt different this time. I felt trapped, as though standing on the edge of something uncomfortable in my own skin. Perhaps it was the presence of others, the subtle desire to be seen as I truly am, without pretense or meaningless chatter. Maybe it was the tension I carried, the tight coil of unspoken truths, but something inside me shifted. I felt an urge rise, not just to speak, but to emerge from the cocoon that had transformed me. No masks, no small talk, just the truth. I was ready to test my new wings. The usual forest magic, its calming breath and grounded silence, was gone. I couldn't hear the rustling leaves, the scurrying of small animals across the forest floor, or the chatter of birds. I couldn't feel the summer air on my skin. Instead, something inside broke open, unwound, and rose with striking force. A story I had meticulously kept hidden for years rushed to the surface, and there was no stopping it, even if it meant casualties. Perhaps sensing the storm, Kate gently suggested we go for a walk and explore the campground, hoping to find the waterfalls that made the area famous. It was a safe distraction. But the story wouldn't wait. As we walked, every detail broke loose. Though keenly aware I might be ruining the trip, word after word, like water forcing its way through cracks in a dam, surged forth. I knew I was disclosing too much, too fast. I could feel the discomfort, the shifts in body language, the attempts to escape, but I pushed forward, peeling away every layer I'd used to keep myself safe. There was no strategy or filter, just momentum. I was done hiding, and my focus was sharply attuned to one task: getting every ounce of my story out as quickly as possible. It was no longer about simply sharing my spiritual experience. It was about the ache of not being able to speak my truth, of needing to hide parts of myself from people who wouldn't or couldn't see me. I was tired of keeping up appearances, done with conversations that only skimmed the surface, done spending time with people who preferred comfort to presence. I wanted to be seen, not for what I did, but for who I truly was, the soul, the essence, the energy pulsing beneath the surface. I longed for communion with others who knew we were spirit having a human experience, who were willing to drop the cloak of the body and meet spirit to spirit. Maybe I just needed reassurance that I wasn't crazy, that someone could relate. But then the words had taken on a life of their own, galloping ahead of me, ignoring the quickening pace of the group, now walking faster along the riverbank while I followed, barely keeping up. All this stemmed from our small talk that morning. It had started simply. We talked about getting older and our reduced range of motion. Kate asked about my shoulder injury, but it had nothing to do with age and everything to do with not listening to God. Now, don't get me wrong, I wasn't blaming God, nor do I believe God punishes us. I don't think the Spirit is vengeful, but I do believe that when we wrestle with God, sometimes we lose. And the losing isn't a loss in the human sense. It's a form of victory, a freeing of our soul. Like Jacob, I wrestled, but unlike Jacob, I wasn't overcome with fear. No, I was plastering the walls of our new home when the voice came gently at first, over and over. This isn't your job. You shouldn't be here. And I knew it was true. I had a newborn daughter. My job was to care for her, but I argued. Just one more day, just one more section of wall, each day the same, one more day. The project was taking much longer than I had anticipated, until finally I heard the last words, the words I knew had been coming for weeks. I warned you. That's when my shoulder locked. The weight of the plastering tray dropped away, too heavy to hold. The bone of my upper arm fused to my shoulder, and I could no longer rotate it. I could no longer lift my arm without the whole shoulder blade raising with it. It was unsightly, out of alignment, square, stiff, and awkward. They didn't believe me when I said the Holy Spirit spoke to me, but I was still determined to tell the whole story. And that is chapter 1 of Rebirth. Again, if you enjoyed that reading, please subscribe, like, and share this with anyone who you think might be interested in this story. Thank you for watching.